Chapter 10 of the Defiant Agents. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by R.J. Davis. The Defiant Agents by Andre Norton. Chapter 10. Beyond this, Menlik worked his way to the very lip of a drop, raising a finger cautiously. Beyond this we do not go. But you say that the camp of your people lies well out in the plains? Julie was up on one knee, using the field glasses they had brought from the stores of the wrecked ship. He passed them along to Travis. There was nothing to be sighted but the rippling amber waves of the tall grasses, save for an occasional break of a copse of trees near the foothills. They had reached this point in the early morning, threading through the pass, making their way across the section known to the outlaws. From here they could survey the debatable land where their temporary allies insisted the Reds were in full control. The result of the conference in the south had been this uneasy alliance. From the start, Travis realized that he could not hope to commit the clan to any set plan, that even to get this scouting party to come against the stubborn resistance of Decay and his reactionaries was a major achievement. Beyond this, Menlik repeated, they keep watch and can control us with the collar. What do you think? Travis passed the glasses to Nolan. If they were ever to develop a war chief, this lean man, tall for an Apache and slow to speak, might fill that role. He adjusted the lenses and began a detailed study, sweep of the open territory. Then he stiffened. His mouth below the masking of the glasses was tight. What is it? Julie asked. Riders, 2, 4, 5, also something else in the air. Menlik jerked back and grabbed at Nolan's arm, dragging him down by the weight of his body. The flyer. Come back. Back. He was still pulling at Nolan, prodding at Travis with one foot, and the Apache stared at him with amazement. The shaman sputtered in his own language, and then, visibly regaining command of himself, spoke English once more. Those are hunters, and they carry a collar. Either some others have escaped or they are determined to find our mountain camp. Julie looked at Travis. You did not feel anything when the woman was under that spell? Travis shook his head. Julie nodded and then said to the shaman, we shall stay here and watch, but since it is bad for you, do you go. And we shall meet you near this place of the towers. Agreed? For a moment, Menlik's face held a shadowy expression Travis tried to read. Was it resentment? Resentment that he was forced to retreat when the others could stand their ground? Did the Tatar believe that he lost face this way? But the shaman gave a grunt of what they took as assent and slipped over the edge of the lookout point. A moment later they heard him speaking the Mongol tongue, warning Hulagur and Lashu, his companion on the scout. Then came the chatter of pony hooves as they rode their mounts away. The Apaches settled back in the cup, which gave them a wide view over the plains. Soon it was not necessary to use the glasses in order to sight the advancing party of hunters. 5 riders, 4 wearing Tartar dress. The fifth had such an odd outline that Travis was reminded of Menlik's sketch of the alien. Under the sharper vision of the glasses, he saw that the rider was equipped with a pack strapped between his shoulders and a bulbous helmet covering most of his head. Highly specialized equipment for communication, Travis guessed. That is a chopper up above, Nolan said. Different shape from ours. They had been familiar with helicopters back on Terra. Ranchers used them for range inspection, and all the Apache volunteers had flown in them. But Nolan was correct. This one possessed several unfamiliar features. The Tatars say they don't bring those very far into the mountains, Jil-Lee mused. That could explain their man on horseback. He gets in where they don't fly. Nolan fingered his bow. If these Reds depend upon their machine to control what they seek, then they may be taken by surprise. But not yet, Travis spoke sharply. Nolan frowned at him. Jil-Lee chuckled. The way is not so dark for us, younger brother, that we need your torch held for our feet. Travis swallowed back any retort, accepting the fairness of that rebuke. He had no right to believe that he alone knew the best way of handling the enemy. Biting on the sourness of that realization, he lay quietly with the others, watching the riders enter the foothills perhaps a quarter of a mile to the west. The helicopter was circling now over the men riding into a cut between two rises. When they were lost to view, the pilot made wider cast, and Travis thought the flyer's crew were probably in communication with the helmeted one of the quintet on the ground. He stirred. They are heading for the Tatar camp, just as if they know exactly where it is. That also may be true, Nolan replied. What do we know of these Tatars? They have freely said that the Reds can hold them in mine ropes when they wish. Already they may be so bound. I say, let us go back to our own country. He added to the decisiveness of that by handing Jil-Lee the glasses and sliding down from their perch. Travis looked at the other. In a way he could understand the wisdom of Nolan's suggestion, but he was sure that withdrawal now would only postpone trouble. Sooner or later the Apaches would have to stand against the Reds, and if they could do it now, while the enemy was occupied with trouble from the Tatars, so much the better. Jil-Lee was following Nolan, but something in Travis rebelled. He watched the circling helicopter. If it was overhanging the action area of the horsemen, they had either reined in or were searching a relatively small section of the foothills. Reluctantly, Travis descended to the hollow where Jil-Lee stood with Nolan. Tsoay and Lupe and Rope were a little to one side, as if the final orders would come from their seniors. It would be well, Jil-Lee said slowly, if we saw what weapons they have. I want a closer look at the equipment of that one in the helmet. Also, he smiled straight at Nolan, I do not think that they can detect the presence of warriors of the people unless we will it so. Nolan ran a finger along the curve of his bow, shot a measuring glance right and left at the general contours of the country. There is wisdom in what you say, elder brother. Only this is a trail we shall take alone, not allowing the men with fur hats to know where we walk. He looked pointedly in Travis's direction. That is wisdom, Ba'is'a, Travis promptly replied, giving Nolan the old title accorded the leader of a war party. Travis was grateful for that much of a concession. They swung into action, heading southeast at an angle which should bring them across the track of the enemy hunting party. The path was theirs at last, only moments after the passing of their quarry. None of the five riders was taking any precautions to cover his trail. Each moved with the confidence of one not having to fear any attack. From cover the Apaches looked aloft. They could hear the faint hum of the helicopter. It was still circling, Tsoay reported from a higher checkpoint, but those circles remained close over the plains area. The riders had already passed beyond the limits of that aerial sentry. Three to a side, the Apaches advanced with the trail between them. They were carefully hidden when they caught up with the hunters. The four Tatars were grouped together. The fifth man, heavily burdened by his pack, had climbed from the saddle and was sitting on the ground, his hands busy with a flat plate which covered him from upper chest to belt. Now that he had a chance to see them closely, Travis noted the lack of expression on the broad Tatar faces. The four men were blank of eye, astride their mounts with no apparent awareness of their present surroundings. Then, as one, Their heads swung around to the helmeted leader